Thank you. Thank you.
Dave Delory.
Welcome. Perfect. Couldn't have better timing, Marcia. Don't go away.
Hi, this is Miriam. I'm trying to
Oh, excellent. Excellent,
get
excellent.
on.
Well, we have a quorum plus, and we're about to make it bigger. So first item is to welcome Mark Asnes after all these months, if not years or decades of waiting patiently for his appointment. It just came through last month. We're delighted that he's officially at the table, and first order of business, I think, is for Cynthia to swear him in.
Yes, I'm here. I'm ready. Mark, are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay, if you could raise your right hand, please. And you solemnly swear or solemnly and sincerely affirm, as the case may be, that you will faithfully discharge according to law your duties as council member to the best of your abilities, so help you God, or upon penalty of perjury.
I do.
Congratulations, you're official.
Hooray.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Glad.
Welcome
I accept
aboard.
gifts. I accept gifts. I'll send you all my address. Feel free to send me a congratulations.
We're
It's only been 2 years.
Delighted after virtue rewarded, Mark.
Yeah.
And that reminds me, we ought to have a brief discussion a little later about getting the the banker person appointed. Given that it may take longer than most of us will be alive, we should probably start that now. I think that's also a gubernatorial appointment. Anyway, so with
Bennett,
that, yeah.
Bennett, I just got a text from Mark and it says he can't get in. He's been trying for 10 minutes from his mobile phone, his car.
Bob, can you help us out here? Mark Berkowitz trying to dial in.
I can't,
You're not seeing
other
him?
than using, no, I don't see. Oh, wait a minute, hang on. I don't see him.
Could you ask him to try again, or what's an alternative, Bob?
I can't get off this screen without losing the, can someone send, he's got the number on the agenda. Or if you could.
It should be the number on the invite, right?
Right.
Can you confirm that with him, Nancy?
Yes.
You could, thank you.
We'll do what we can to get him in.
I'm going to forward the link to him. Hold on.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, he probably wants to dial in because he's on the phone.
Right.
So
Right. That number is in there, right?
it's in the invite, yes. It's separately listed in the invite.
It's right at the top of the agenda.
Hang on.
There's a one tap.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, let's so we can move ahead here. Can we get a motion to approve the minutes of September 8th?
Motion to approve.
Second, please.
Second.
Any corrections, additions?
What were the motions? Who was the first, please?
Dave Delory.
Delory and Mr. Asnes, right?
Yep.
It's not ideal, but if we can't get Mark in some other way, Nancy, you might offer to put him on, call him and put him on your speaker. It might be better than nothing. I'm sorry, any additions or corrections to the minutes? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Abstentions? Minutes are approved. So we will now hear from Pamela It's all yours.
Morning. For the record, Pamela Brown, Director of Investigations, and I'm here with Janita Hamill, Supervising Special Investigator. I will let Janita start off with the report.
Oh, sorry about that. I was still on mute. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
With the report, there for this time frame, it's from September 1st of 2021 through November 30th of 2021. In that time frame, we have one new open case. There were 10 cases that were closed. 2 of those cases were closed by the investigator, and 8 of those cases were closed by legal. The cases closed by legal would be a discussion with legal. I believe Attorney Fernandez is still on. And for the 2 that were closed by our investigator, that would be the first 2 files shown, which would be 2021-136 and 2021-144. Are there any questions on those 2 files, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, I have one on the second one, which
Yes,
is
sir.
144, I guess.
Yes, sir.
And this is as I gather from the notes in column Q, this is a resident who objected to a change in park rules. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And this was an existing resident, right? Not a new entry.
Right. This is a resident who was not happy that changes were taking place.
Right. So my understanding is that residents are not affected by changes in rules that are detrimental, that are substantive. I don't know the exact language. Maybe Rafi can help us out here. Do we know if this resident, were these rules done at lease renewal?
I believe, yes, they were. And the investigator was in contact with the park owner and reviewed the rules. And as it indicates in his closure notes that, you know, these were the rules that were changed, and it was deemed not unreasonable or arbitrary and capricious. And it was only this one resident who took offense to the changes.
Yeah. So I guess my point is not to question the right of the park owner to change the rules if they're not unreasonable or arbitrary, but whether they are applicable to an existing tenant if they change rights that existed under the prior lease agreement. So the question would be, did this resident sign a new lease with the rules appended? And was it done during the change of the lease? Because otherwise, I think the answer really should be different here, right? That anything that is a substantive diminution of rights would not be applicable. And Rafi, can you just clarify that for us?
Well, first of all, I'm trying to understand the closure note. It seems like what the park owner did was the park owner liberalized the rules.
In some respects.
Well, I mean, for example, you can have, it says you can have motorcycles now.
Understood, but the
So-
first sentence says there are some things he didn't like, so presumably those were not liberalizing.
Well, No, I guess what I'm saying is, again, I may be misunderstanding these notes, but it seems like these are things that other people are being allowed to do. And for example, let's say the park had a prohibition against motorcycles, and the park owner changes it now to permit motorcycles.
Yes,
It's not that this person, it's a different from the opposite, where you have a motorcycle and now
Right.
they're prohibiting them. And you're
I
saying,
agree.
wait a second, now I can't have my
Yeah,
motorcycle.
I
It
agree
seems to
with
be going
you.
the opposite way, that they're saying now somebody else can have a motorcycle. And I think that's bad because it's going to be noisy. That's when you ask the question, does the
I see.
rule apply to the complaining resident? Well, yeah, of course the rule applies. They can have a motorcycle now.
Right,
But
I was reading the
but you
first
can't
sentence
protest
differently.
that rule by saying it doesn't apply to me.
Yeah, I agree. I was reading the first sentence differently. I was assuming that we're not told here the things he didn't like. If you can just clarify that for us, are these the only things he objected to in the notes?
yes, sir.
Oh, in that
If-
case, I have no concern. I agree with Rafi. I was reading the first sentence to mean, although he likes some of the changes, there are others that he.
Yeah, can I jump in here? I don't know the background, but as a resident, I can tell you that I'm fairly confident that there are changes to the rules that were made that he doesn't like. Because we just experienced the same thing here in Sun Communities. And furthermore, I'm sure the owners on the council will back me up on this, that the leases are drawn so that they can choose to apply any all rules individually, and there's really no recourse. If they want to let somebody have a bull mastiff in here, they'll do it and suspend the rules. And it says that in the lease.
Dave, could you explain that more, or give
Well,
another example?
That's what our lease is saying. It's typical of mobile home leases that,
Just say what?
they list a whole bunch of things, do's and don'ts. And somewhere in the text of the lease, it says, we can change the rules whenever we feel like it. Is that not right?
Well, they can't change the rules in the middle of the lease.
Right.
If
They
it
can
has a
choose-
negative effect
That's
on
not
you.
what the lease is. Well, that's not what mine says, Ben.
Right.
And it's not what mine has said since I lived here. It's not new. This is not news. It was the same when Jensen's owned it. They've recently made some of the similar changes that whoever this complainant is about motorcycles. There's now 2 dogs versus 1. There's now a limitation on the size of the dogs as there used to be, but now there's limitations on breed.
Is Hillcrest owned by the same people, Dave?
But they can all be ignored per the lease. I don't have the lease in front of me, but I can certainly get it to you and show you where it
Oh,
says.
sorry, Dave, can you just tell us, is Hillcrest owned by the same people?
I don't think so, no.
Oh, so we don't know what this lease says.
No, but I'll be willing to bet you that it says there's a clause in the lease saying that they can ignore or they'll enforce the law, the rules against you when it's to their benefit, and ignore them when they need to get somebody in the community.
Yeah. Do you want to reach out to the resident and just explore that? Because it's not clear at all from this what's
Are you
going on.
talking to me?
Yeah,
I'm sure the DCP won't give me his name.
well, of course they will. It's right here. And it's now closed, so the records are public.
I'm sorry, it's a closed complaint. I apologize. Hold on. Yeah, I can do that. It's in Candlewood. Yeah, it's a closed complaint. I wasn't aware of that. Sorry about that. But
Bennett, can I just chime in real quick?
Please.
Well, firstly, I was just listening to what Dave had to say, but firstly, all leases are filed with DCP. So that's the first thing so they have.
I lost him.
He just went on mute. Sorry.
If there was, I'm sorry, I got tied up. If there's anything in there that DCP should let the community owner know that something is going above and beyond. Secondly, most leases are community rules, at least the ones that I have, does allow you to change the rules from time to time with notice to the residents.
Yes.
So I don't think that's unreasonable. I think any lease would say as much, and the tenant has a right to, you know, agree to those terms or not. So I just wanted to add those few things.
And then the or not is the important operative statement there. As we all know. So anyway, go ahead. I'll send you the changes. I'd be happy to send the changes in the rules to the Sun communities that just took effect. I don't know, 3 months ago, and I'll send them to everybody on the council, and you can make your own judgments on the tone and tenor of how they were distributed and what they say.
Well, it's my understanding that, I guess maybe Mark, I'm sort of addressing this to your comment, that DCP doesn't actually review the leases, that you have to file the lease with DCP, and that you would have to file lease changes with DCP, but that nobody at DCP reads them to and asks the question, do these lease changes comply with the statute or not? I mean, I think it'd be great if they did, and maybe they should. And in fact, not maybe, they should, but I don't think DCP sees it as its responsibility to evaluate a new filed lease. So let's assume it had something in it that was patently contrary to the statute. You know, you cannot sell your home and we, for any reason whatsoever, may refuse to allow you to sell it. That would be contrary to the statute. If that clause showed up in a new lease that was filed with DCP, I don't think DCP would pick that out and sort of send the lease back and say, you can't do that. It's contrary to the statute. I mean, I guess I would address this to Janita or Pamela or Cynthia or someone. Am I wrong? Is DCP actually reading the leases that are filed and reviewing them and making an evaluation as to legality?
This is Pamela Brown. Upon a new application, DCP investigations will review the packet. However, I do have something that I'm going to be doing in the upcoming year to address that. And I wouldn't want to speak about it right now because I have to have the sign off on several different levels before I can do that. But to answer your question, currently it is just being filed at this point.
Okay, and if any changes are made to a lease, like the example that we have now, is a new lease being filed? Like, is it systematically required that the new lease be filed with the department, or is that discretionary with the park owner?
I believe it's a part of their renewal that they have to upload the lease upon renewal. So we're working all of that out because one of the things I was going to talk about is the new way that we're going to be doing our inspections. So there's going to be a lot, we're looking at this area a lot more because we are not doing the inspections at this year upon receipt of an application renewal. It will be done over the course of the upcoming year because it was really creating a burden for my division, because I would have to pull in supervising special investigators, myself, to make up a team to get this done. So out of that, I am developing a new process and workflow. And so that will be one of the things that we will be looking at.
If I could say one thing, when a complaint is investigated, a copy of the lease in the park rules are requested and they are reviewed by the investigator versus the allegations made in the complaint. And if there were any violations, then it would become the subject of a report that would go to legal for review and further administrative action.
But
So
that's
in a-
only if a complaint, that's only if somebody makes a complaint about, as you wouldn't do that just on a routine annual reinspection. That's
I
sort
bel-
of complaint based.
Yes, for that. And I believe Director Brown already addressed that there are going to be changes coming in the future regarding that concern from this council.
I just want to jump in. Is it safe to say that the statement that Bennett made earlier, assuming that the summary of the complaint is that the guy, that's the only thing that says there is what the guy is happy about. So he would have submitted a complaint about what he's happy about? Because I'm wondering why he made a complaint if that's something he's happy about.
He didn't like the fact that motorcycles are allowed. He doesn't want people to have 2 dogs. He doesn't want golf carts in there. And I'm not sure what it means by permitted vehicles.
Okay, so because it says the complainant does like some rule changes. So it should say does not like some rule changes, I guess. All right.
I believe that's a yes.
Okay.
What he does not like is the motorcycles, the dogs, the golf carts.
I got it.
And as you said, sir, from your own experience, you've got a lease, you've got rules, and some things change.
Mhm. Just out of curiosity, if you were faced with a complaint, hypothetically, that questioned whether a person is qualified to live in the community, how would DCP address that?
Excuse me?
How would DCP? It's not a fair hypothetical until the complaint's filed. Never mind. I withdraw the question.
Okay, I think just in the interest of time, we're going to have to move on. I'm satisfied based on what we've heard the complainant's concerns were, that this is not an appropriate case to argue about the applicability of restrictive regulations. It looks like these are liberalizing, and
Right.
he's just not happy that people are getting to do things that he doesn't approve of. And I don't think that's within our jurisdiction, quite frankly.
I have a couple other questions about the report.
Sure, please.
There are, I guess the first one is that because these cases are closed, does this now mean that we can get copies of the complaint from the resident so that we could actually see what the residents complained about?
Sure.
We have always had access to those.
Okay, so that
you may recall, you and I spent some time years ago going through a big stack.
Okay, no. So where that was leading was in the report, you've got, these are all closed cases. For many of them, you have something called consent agreement. Others, you've got sort of a final disposition. So is there a way that systematically the advisory council could, without having to ask you for it, can just now routinely upon closure get for distribution copies of the complaints, so that we could look at the complaints and see the kind of complaints that are coming in, the details of those complaints, which would help us identify potential problems in some of the parks, even though the complaints have now been disposed of. But we don't have any, or do we have to specially ask you individually on a one-on-one basis for a copy of the complaints? Could it be like an attachment to the report, that with this report, you give us copies of all the complaints that are closed?
You're actually getting most of the substantive matter in the report, except for the actual written complaint, but that would probably put a hardship on my staff, as I only have one full-time inspector and a part-time investigator. They're both investigators that are doing this position, but you can put your request in and submit it to me. If there's some way that we can accommodate that with some other staff member, at least I'll consider it if you want to email me directly.
Well, it would seem to me that it'd be, for you, it'd be, I'm guessing the complaints are 1 page or 2 pages. That it'd be easier for you to routinely copy that and just attach it to the report than it would be for me to ask you individually for each complaint to go open the file and pull up and make a copy of the complaint for me. I mean, it just seems like it'd be easier to make it routine.
In order for that to happen, it's not attached to the report. For what's in legal, legal would have to take care of those documents. And since they don't routinely upload with this file, then now you're asking me to not only do the report, which, as Mr. Pudlin will tell you, we do have issues with it, and we are desperately trying to amend that with this, the scope and the format of it. This means now that I, when I do this, will be the one who will have to go into the complaint database and download this stuff and then attach it somehow to everything that you're looking for.
Okay, well, who would I make the request to?
If you want to send it to me, Pamela Brown, and I will pass it along.
Okay,
Because also
And-
Julianne will probably need to be involved in it
Right.
since those cases cross over to legal as well.
Right.
And the commissioner.
I was about to say, this is Cynthia for the files that, have come to me and I've worked on. Julianne would have to be CC'd on that too.
and how about for the consent, you've got consent agreements here, a whole bunch of them from the same park.
Yeah, that's the
That's it.
consent. I mean, I can get into that when I get into those cases. I know that Pam and Janita are pressed for time, but that's the consent order that's been previously shared with the council that Oak Ridge was
It's
on.
an AG's consent order.
Okay, and one general thing about the format of the report, and I'm just wondering if you can do, I think at some point, maybe Bennett has requested this. The report as it was distributed is really hard to read because to get on one page, it's the printing is really small. Is there a way that you can distribute this as, say, an Excel file so that we could manipulate it ourselves to make it more readable and printable rather than as a PDF?
The PDF, if you go to the top of the page where the plus sign is, you can increase the font size that way to read it on the PDF.
The problem though, Janita, was
With the
The
columns,
se-
yes, sir, I know. I went back in and I took care of that. To the best of our ability, we're working with the IT group to come up, because this is not just an issue for your board, sir. It's an issue for all the boards and commissions and councils with the way the report is formatted. And I have to work with IT on that. And they
Right.
are working on it. That's what they tell me.
All right, in the
I-
meantime, though, it would be easier for us if you could just send us because somebody's converting the Excel to PDF. If you could just send us the Excel. I know Mark Asness did that and was able to manipulate it, but some of us don't have Adobe Professional to do that. So,
And also, if you increase your zoom on your printer, it may print out larger, or you can print it if it doesn't have that option, and then maybe increase the size of the printing.
yeah, but
When you
that
put it on
again
your
isn't
printer
going to
at home
help.
on your photocopier, you can enlarge it that way as well.
It isn't going to help though, Pamela, if the original document was PDF'd and it was the cell size was too small. All I'm saying is, if it doesn't matter to you, send us the Excel and we won't have to bother you until you get it fixed. That's all. Miriam, if you're trying to talk, you are muted. Sorry.
Yeah, hi, guys, thanks. I've got an 11:15 probate Zoom call to get on in a few minutes, but I just want to say something about this. Because unless I've missed something, the ones where for example, number 1 on this list, the Gardens of Groton, that's one of my properties. The dispute and the resolution was quick, easy, and I don't see some of these disputes between residents that get cleaned up quickly to be necessarily worthy of spending a tremendous amount of a dozen or more so people's time, to be honest with you. I look down and I see things that have to do with health maintenance issues, which were not addressing, and maybe we could get sort of a response as to what that was about, where we've got multiple people, from what I understand, even though it's closed, and that's great. I'm just trying to figure out what that means.
Yeah, we're going to go to Cynthia next. The issue is that Pamela and Dronita don't discuss legal matters with us. That's why Cynthia's here. So if we're done with them, we can let them go and we can switch to Cynthia. I agree with you, Miriam. I think we've spent an awful lot of time. We have gotten some clarification that I think is useful, and I think Rafi's free to pursue any of these on his own that he wants to do, and any that he thinks we need as a council to look at. Welcome to bring it back here at the next meeting. But I do think, I also have to hop off at 11:30. Ben, are you? Can I impose on you to take the chair when I leave at 11:30? Ben, you're going to have to unmute.
He's muted too.
Yeah,
Oh, isn't he? Maybe
Here
he's
we
not.
go.
there you go.
Here we go.
Ben, will you be able to take the chair when I leave at 11:30?
Sure.
Thank you. Anything else for Pamela and Janita? They're now running late for their meeting. If not, thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you at the next meeting. And Cynthia, it's all yours.
Thank you, be well.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Okay, so the Oak Ridge files that are closed.
Cynthia, we've lost you.
Were all the consent or department with the auspices of the AG's office. Those cases remained open for this long. They're all from 2018 and 2019. They remained open not because there were problems at the park, but it was to keep it in my queue and on my radar, since the park had a history of problems, and I wanted to make sure that there wasn't anything new cropping up or new complaints weren't coming in. So, that consent order that was previously shared with the council, when it was first arrived at, and over the course of the time that it was implemented, was complied with by the owner. It covered the tree problem, trimming back the trees, cutting down dangerous trees, hiring an arborist to evaluate the health of the trees and evaluating which ones should have been cut down immediately, which were, I'm sorry? Did I interrupt anyone? Okay. So there was extensive tree work done at the park that the owner submitted evidence of, and our inspections over the course of 2019 and 2020, and actually this year, showed that there was a big improvement in that. The roads were done. That wasn't part of the consent order, but she did do the roads. The last time it was inspected was April 1st. And the park passed inspection on all of those issues, the trees, the roads, what else? The water and sewer passed inspection on. The one issue that cropped up in April 2021 was the lot lines were not defined. And so I believe she remedied that with inspections. So that's why all of those cases got closed at once. I contacted all of the complainants on those. I left them all voicemails. I heard back from two who said that they had a couple more issues. One spoke about a water issue that I referred her to DPH on. And another resident I've been in touch with, I've asked, she's stated to me several times that she would be submitting any further complaints because she's claiming that there are trees that need to be trimmed any further. I've asked her to send current pictures because the last set of pictures that we have from that particular complainant were from 2019. And there's been a lot of work done since then. But as far as I'm aware, and the last I checked with investigations last week, there were no new complaints issued with Oak Ridge. And that's the reason why all of those were closed at once, since I held them open for my own purposes. As far as Riverview, that one was closed. Also, that was an extensive case, actually. I tried, to bring some sort of resolution for that complaint in it. It involved unmitigated water flow that caused damage to the mobile home unit. And the water flow issue was corrected by the owner by putting in driveway aprons. He put in a curb drain, fix the road of the driveways that were leading up to this particular mobile home, where apparently the water was kind of washing over under his home over the course of years that he's been there. That was remedied by the owner back in 2019, so that there was no enforcement for the department to bring, because once the complaint was made, the owner went ahead and made the repairs and submitted proof of that. The issue and why it stayed open for that long was trying to find some sort of remedy that the complainant would be satisfied with, and that the owner, was willing to undertake, honestly. It's an extensive case also. I don't know how far you want me to get into it, but it ended up that there were several offers made by the owner that were rejected by the complainant. At the end, the owner wound up offering some repair work in combination with a cash payout to help him make some repairs to his home. And that's the repair work was rejected, but the cash was taken. And that's, where I left it, because it's not the role of the department to settle a dispute between, it's really a civil dispute between the owner and the resident, where the offending behavior was already, remedied, where the driveway work and the curb apron was already remedied. So that's why that one was closed out. And I believe that's all that's on the list, correct? It's Oak Ridge and Riverview from legal. So if there's any questions, I'll take them.
Yeah, Cynthia, I have to verify that you have not received any recent complaints from Oak Ridge.
I have not. I actually reached out again this week to the particular complainant from the previous complaints to, request her to send in the information that she's spoken with me about. I've had several conversations with her over the phone.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. She hasn't done that, right?
No, I haven't received anything.
Okay. So as far as this part goes, I've been there a couple times, not recently, so I don't know the extent of what work the owner did. In the years that I've been involved with the council, it's just coming to the meetings as a member. In the past, we've done site visits, and I don't remember the last one, except I know it was one of Jensen's parks. So it's been a couple of years anyway.
Well, we did. Wait. We did a virtual one in Colchester. Remember?
Yes. Well, okay. Sorry, I didn't count that. And I'm going to suggest that we come summertime, assuming that COVID is not a problem. I'm going to suggest that the council take it upon itself to resume visits, including this park and a couple of others in the same vicinity, because I would like the members of the council to see the conditions in some of these parks where the complaints are coming from constantly. We can think about that, putting on that for maybe the next meeting for the next agenda.
Bennett, this
Yes.
is Mark. I'd just like to submit that what Dave is suggesting is not within the scope of what the advisory council should be doing. While I think it's important to follow some of these communities if they have multiple violations, I think it's outside the scope of what we're really our mission is and our purpose is if we start making site visits to communities that may have some issues there. I just don't see where that is relevant or productive or even appropriate for us to do. So I would respectfully disagree with Dave. Maybe under his capacity, he wants to do that, but as a council, I think that's overstepping what our purpose is.
Mark, first, I didn't realize you were here. Thank you so much for persevering. You're not showing up on our screen, so I thought we had
sorry.
lost you. So,
Mark is the second Dave Delory on the phone.
got it.
Because he must be coming through Dave's phone.
Perfect. However you've done it, thank you.
Well, Mark, if I knew
okay.
you were gonna use my name, I wouldn't, and then just disagree with you, I wouldn't have sent you the link.
Can we, as the other Dave suggested, Mark, can we hold this to the next meeting and talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, that's fine with me, but I think it would have to be a pretty compelling
Yeah.
argument to start inspecting communities that have multiple violations.
Yeah,
But,
we're
that's
not
fine.
likely to go anywhere in the next 3 months, given almost a 9% positivity rate in Connecticut, I suspect. So I think we have ample time to talk this through at the next meeting.
I'm good with that.
Great. Anything else for Cynthia? So we could let her go, or she's welcome to stay because she might want to hear Colette's report as well. But going once. Cynthia, thank you very much. We'll
Thank you.
look forward to talking with you at the next meeting.
Definitely. I'll hop off because I have another meeting coming up too.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Colette.
Hi.
Hi, can I ask you to start with the park purchase program just as a help to me, because I have to jump off and I probably wouldn't be here for your whole presentation. I can follow up with you, but I would appreciate.
Yep, sure. So really the only update is that we've received your comments and then we received those additional comments from CDI. We are reviewing them at this point. We are kind of focused on end of the year closings and things like that. So I won't really have anything wrapped up this year. So it'll bump into first quarter next year. But we have those comments. I think, we're at a good place to try and get this wrapped up. We would like to meet with you. I think at one point, I think that'll be useful. But at this point, I don't really have an update for you other than we've received your comments and we're beginning that review.
Yeah, that's fine. I think as we had discussed some time ago, we did comments, your revision, further comments, and then I think there's no point in passing more paper. When you're ready, I think we should have I would say a sit down, but we'll undoubtedly a Zoom meeting. And
yeah, that sounds good. That sounds good.
And I think that Andy would want to have this, be in the same meeting with us. So you don't have to do it twice.
Yep.
And with any luck, we'll get it wrapped up and get it out the door. So thank you.
Yeah, sounds good. And then real quickly, a single family update. So we do have a new single family director. Her name is Lisa Hensley. So Valencia is officially retired. She had retired and then she stayed on for a little bit to help with the transition. We do have a new director. She comes to us from the District of Columbia HFA. So she's new to the state as well. As you know, Marcus was kind of, he was influential in getting that single family programs up and running. So I think he's been trying to act as a bridge as we kind of transition with staff. So the hope is that, he'll be able to hand that off to the single family staff. He did let me know that we have received 30 applications for the single family programs between the refi program and the mobile home purchase program. We've closed on 2 loans and we've had 1 refinance. So he did indicate that he received feedback from both the council as well as C4C on some suggestions regarding implementation. So those are things that they want to look at and want to address. Again, that'll kind of get kicked to next year and get Lisa up to speed and the new staff familiar with the programs. But it sounds like, from what I could tell from Marcus, that obviously that feedback's very valuable if we can kind of work on improving our program so that it makes it easier and more accessible, we want to do that. So, and then really kind of be able to look at utilization and how we can get some more applicants and approved for these programs. So that's really the update I have on both the programs. Mark, I see you ready to.
I don't know if we're, yeah, raise my hand. Yeah, no. So I'm happy that I got 30 applications. I wish obviously you guys were doing more closings and stuff. Do you know how many were denied? How many didn't qualify?
No, I don't.
Could you find out for us and let us know how many are still in process versus how many have been denied? That would be
Okay.
useful, because 30 sounds like a big improvement unless we're all denied.
Right.
That would be good to know. And I was going to ask also if you think Lisa would be in a position to join us at our next meeting 3 months.
Yeah, I
in.
can check with her. I mean, I know Marcus spoke with her and she seemed really interested and she certainly wants to get to know the programs better. I'll just have to check in with her and see where she's at. But I'd be happy to extend that offer to her.
If for some reason she's not prepared, perhaps you could ask Marcus to come back. Because I think it would be time then to really take a deeper dive to see what we can do. Again, as we discussed at the last meeting, you folks have done everything way beyond anything we could have imagined in terms of trying to promote this program. And I must say I'm surprised and disappointed that the take-up at this point hasn't been greater. And I just wonder, and it's not all, it shouldn't be all on you. I mean, what we can do collectively to make this a success. So,
Colin, do you know of that 30, how many are refis versus sales of new homes?
I don't.
Okay. I would like to know that, or sales of refis versus sales, I guess. I would really like to know, maybe for next meeting.
Yeah, I'll check in with them. Again, I think they're also kind of settling in with how to track everything. So I'll see if they have that split out like that and let them know that that data is useful.
Okay.
I've got a question on that.
go ahead, Ben.
I've got a concern. It seems like 30 is not a lot. And we had talked about we had a concern about getting the word out, I guess we call it. And one of the things, I don't recall seeing anything that came across from Connecticut Association of Realtors, regarding these programs that are for the public to look at. I think that's one thing. I don't think we've done enough to expose it.
I do recall you made that suggestion and Mark took note of it last time, Ben. So that would be something we should pursue.
My understanding from Marcus is that there was a fair amount of legwork that was done and outreach and contacts with park owners. We have a section on our website. So I don't know if it's, and I believe Marcus worked with you extensively. So maybe it's just kind of the similar work that was done with Nancy's group. We need to do with Ben's group. But I mean, it's on our website too. So certainly feel free to distribute links to any of your networks. But if there's, newsletters or other things, we can certainly work with you on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you could put Marcus in touch with Ben again, just so they can make sure that all of the right connections are getting made. The realtors are obviously a critical partner in this effort and have a great interest, I would think.
Yeah, Ben, if you have specific ways that we can reach your community, I mean, as much as, I do want to kind of be the representative here, and I understand that Marcus has been really influential, but if you want to email me directly, I can loop him in and, utilize our resources. But if you have specific, again, newsletters, websites, if you want to send those to me directly, and then I can kind of include Marcus and get his group involved.
Okay, Benny, I don't have her email. Can you just forward that to me?
I mean, is it on the agenda?
Should be.
Yeah, well, it's on the group email.
It's on the group email that gave you the agenda and minutes for today's meeting, Ben.
Okay,
If you don't, I can send it to you. Just let me know, okay?
all right, thank you.
Just one other thing, Colette, you mentioned it's on your website. I know early on, we had talked with Marcus about getting it on both the DCP and DOH websites, getting a link there. Do you know if that's been done?
No, I don't.
Jennifer, any info on your side?
No, I don't know. I could check our website, but that would have to be sent to Michael Santoro because it's one of his staff is the one that uploads.
You could
any
just put
documents onto
that
our
on the list for Marcus as well, if it hasn't been done.
I think just to reiterate, I've done a lot of mailings and Marcus or somebody sent me a whole bunch of inserts that we put in newsletters that we sent out to all of our tenants and I continue to do it. I'll do it every quarter as we do it. But I think part of the problem is, forget the purchase part of it, but the refinance part of it is everything that you guys have talked about really isn't the venue that the people who need this thing are going to. They're not going online to look for, somebody who's got an old house that is a little bit older isn't necessarily looking on the DCP website or the DOH website or even, any housing stuff. They're not getting the information. That's really the issue. They're not out looking for it. We're in business, so we utilize a lot of the things that you're just talking about, but we really need to think about how do we get to the resident? How do you get to the resident? They're not going to go out and look for stuff. We need to get it to them directly.
Agreed. I think that's what the discussion we need to have.
Yeah.
Because I think the department has done all of the things. I mean, the mailing that they did,
They've been
the bulk
awesome.
mailing
Yep.
was phenomenal, but for whatever reason, that I would have thought would have been the most effective, putting it directly in the hands of the people who need it. Between the department's mailing and what you all have done, the park owners, you would think most residents now have gotten something. Whether they've read it, who knows? But that's why looking at the denials might be important too. I mean, if one of the things is that the threshold requirements are such that people just can't take advantage of it, that would be something
And I
to
think
know.
Marcus kind of acknowledged that. That's, again, it sounds like there's been feedback that's come back from not only the council, but C4C. So the idea of kind of addressing any of that feedback, again, to improve the process, the implementation, the application process, and then maybe after that's done, doing another big hit with marketing.
Yeah, I think that makes tremendous sense. My apologies. Ben, I'm going to hand it off to you. I do have the last of my standing meetings at 10:30 on this particular Wednesday of the month. So I got to go. Thank you all. Have a good holiday, and we'll see you in the late ugly winter. Bye-bye.
Happy holidays, Ben.
Thank you.
Hi, Bennett.
Hi, Bennett.
Bennett, happy
Thank
holidays.
you, Bennett. Okay, Education Committee, anything new on that? Nothing new? Who chairs that, by the way? Is that party here?
Hi, Ben. I believe Miriam and I co-chair that committee.
Okay, anything new?
Nothing. We haven't had anything in quite some time.
Any old business to discuss at this time? Okay. All right, DCP complaint, we've discussed the pending closing complaints. We updated on inspection status plans, implementing new legislation. DCP legal, update on pending and resolved legal issues. I believe we've discussed that already. So here's a schedule, by the way, of our next year. It was a fast year, wasn't it? We went through a lot. So these are the dates. That necessarily means that this is in concrete here. We may be adding more meetings as Bennett has in the past as needed. So these are the scheduled meetings. Any questions on those?
Yeah, Ben, I have one question. The meeting time for the regular meetings got moved at some point from 10 to 10:30. Is that, I mean, I'm assuming that was because of conflict with something else that was earlier.
Right, I believe it was scheduling on the Zoom meetings. Why that was done, am I correct?
Well, I don't know. So my question is it possible to get back to 10 o'clock, or is that blocked for some reason within DCP? The reason I say that is that the later we start, the more we run into conflict with meetings that are scheduled later in the morning. And then Bennett's being an example today where he has to cut off at 11:30.
Yeah.
And
10
we didn't
10
seem to
o'clock
be
would be
having
perfect.
that problem when our meeting started at 10. So that's it's just a question as to whether it's possible to go back.
Briefly, I could certainly look into that. On the assumption that we were, at least in the immediate future, staying with Zoom, I was limited to the availability on the slots available to the department. I'll go back over that schedule and see if I can get them, moved to 10, where there are no conflicts.
There was a while there, we were running to one, you were running into one meeting to the next into. And I think that's why.
Right,
Yeah.
Ben, just as an example, today there was an appraisal commission meeting just before this one, which is why the time on this one started at 10:30 and not 10. There was a conflict there, but I will double check next year's schedule, Rafi and Ben, to do everything I can to move it to 10.
Now, do you reserve the time already for next year? I mean, is this a?
Yes.
Okay, so
I
are we
went
down
ahead
for
and
10 or
reserved it.
10:30? Are we down for 10 or 10:30?
I think there's both. I can't get over to the to that schedule right now because again, I'm on the meeting. But I have to swing over to that on the Zoom platform. I have to minimize this. And
yeah, I think that we're down for 10:30 at the moment, because when I looked at my calendar to record this, I think at least the notice we got was all at 10:30.
All right. Well,
if I can change those at all, I will.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, with that, then I adjourn the meeting. Thank you all.
Okay.
Have a happy holiday and safe holiday.
Happy holidays,
Thank you,
everyone.
you too.
Fair.
Hold on for just a second, please.
Happy holidays, everyone. Bye.
You too. Thank
You
you.
too, bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.